I think it's time to absolutely chew your ears off and talk about films, because I'm in my film era. So on January 1st 2024, I treated myself to an Odeon membership. That means that I pay $14.99 a month and can see pretty much any film at Odeon cinemas. I have definitely made the most of my money so far on this, and I am going to start a little series called Feelings on Films. This is going to be January and February, but I will from now on do it monthly and not have so many, because there is going to be a lot of films to talk about. Now, I would have discussed some of these in my January roundup video, but I didn't go into a huge amount of depth with those. So let's chat about all of the films that I have watched so far in 2024. Today is March the 1st, and I have watched 32 films. One of them was a rewatch, so I've watched 31 new films. So as a quick disclaimer, I am not educated in film. I don't know big fancy words. I don't know much about the technicalities of films. All I know about films is how they make me feel, and that's why this series is called Feelings on Films. Just a little bit about me. I am a bit of a film obsessive, but I've kind of hit an all-time high in 2024. So I've been documenting films as I watch them for, doing maths in my head, 13 years. I started in 2011 making a massive list of every film I've ever seen. I did that on IMDb, and I did that by I'd go through like loads of famous actors. I think I started with Johnny Depp, so I like went on Johnny Depp's IMDb and like noted down every single one of his films I watched. Then Brad Pitt, like I just went like down that route, and then I felt like I filled it all in, and then I just started to add every time I watched a new film. I would add to that list. So my list as it stands of every film I've ever seen is 1,256. I'm 29 years old, so I don't know if that's good, if that's bad, if that's more than average, less than average, but I'm definitely making a dent in films this year, because I don't think I've ever watched this many by March the 1st in my life. So yeah, with all that being said, let's run through. Let's start with January. My list is in order of what I watched, so I feel like that just makes sense to do it chronologically. I will do my best not to give any spoilers of anything, and I will put in the description every film that I mention, so if you're kind of nervous that I might give a spoiler, you can see the films I mentioned. But I don't think I'll give any spoilers away. January, the first film I watched was Saltburn. I'm not going to talk about my January films too much, because I did touch on them in the other video, but I really liked Saltburn. I think about Saltburn a lot. I've watched Saltburn twice actually. I didn't include that as a rewatch on here, to be honest. I might have to go on my letterboxd and change that. My letterboxd will be in the description of the video. I just really love Emerald Fennell. I loved Promising Young Woman, and I will literally watch anything that she does now. Like, I will just trust her every time she brings a film out. Even if I'm not sure on the synopsis of the film, I will always go and watch it, because just the way she makes films just speaks to me, I guess. I just feel like she's a director that I can really get on board with, and yeah, I really enjoyed Saltburn. What more can I say? I watched that film at home, and then in the cinema I watched Anything But You. I did a double bill of Anything But You and Priscilla. I enjoyed both of those films very much. I watched Poor Things at the cinema. That's up there. That's probably going to be one of my favourite films of 2024. I can't imagine it dipping below like the top 10. I just felt like that was the perfect cinematic experience, really. Definitely a film that wanted to be seen in the cinema. Doesn't mean to say that if it comes on streaming that you shouldn't watch it at home if you didn't get a chance to see it at the cinema, but I'm definitely glad I saw it in the cinema. I just felt like it was an experience. Mean Girls I saw in the cinema. I wasn't like super excited about it, but in retrospect I definitely think I enjoyed it more than I thought I did, if that makes sense, and I would watch it again. At home I watched No Hard Feelings, Jennifer Lawrence Can Do No Wrong. I thoroughly enjoyed that. That's a film from a couple of years ago. And then I also watched Death on the Nile. Never need to watch that again. Felt very bored watching that. Back to the cinema, I watched The Colour Purple, which I absolutely loved. Very surprised I didn't get more Oscar nominations, but Oscars are not massively known for really promoting musicals, but I just thought it was superb. The lady who played Celie, what's her name? Fantasia Barrino. Where was her Oscar nom? She needed a nom. She broke my heart in 30 different fucking places. The Holdovers, watched at the cinema. I loved The Holdovers. I can feel that becoming a comfort film for me, for sure. Definitely something I'll be watching at Christmas. It's set at Christmas. I just thought it was great. Really beautifully acted. It was subtle but poignant, and I think about The Holdovers a lot, actually. And then at home I watched The Lobster. I had never seen The Lobster before. I enjoyed The Lobster. I thought it was a really interesting premise. The premise of The Lobster, I know I haven't said the premise for any of the other ones, but it's because I have kind of talked about these in another video. The premise of The Lobster is in a dystopian near future, according to the laws of the city, single people are taken to the hotel where they are obliged to find a romantic partner in 45 days, or they're transformed into beasts and sent into the woods. So me, a single Pringle, wouldn't last 5 minutes. But yeah, you're basically turned into an animal if you don't find the love of your life. I love a dystopian film. I'm not a huge sci-fi girly, and I know sci-fi and dystopian kind of do fall under an umbrella. I love just a weird concept dystopian kind of affair. That's definitely a bit of me. And then the last film I watched in January was at the cinema, and it was All of Us Strangers. My heart has not recovered. Again, I'm not going to go too much into it because I think I spoke about it in the January roundup, but just the ending of it, you're just left listening to a song that I really love, and I was just sat in my seat, just like taking it all in. Like, it was like someone had actually punched me in the gut. Like, it was a lot to process. I fucking loved it. So that was January. That I watched 11 films in January, and that was them. In February I started my film journey at the cinema. Literally 1st of Feb, I took my mum to the cinema for her birthday, and we watched The End We Start From. I will follow Jodie Comer to the end of the earth, and seeing her on a big screen is always going to be a treat. And I wanted to, this was one of the films that made me want to get an Odeon membership, and then Odeon never showed it, so I had to go to a different cinema to watch it. The dedication is real. So the premise of The End We Start From is a woman tries to find her way home with her newborn while an environmental crisis submerges London in floodwaters. It's got a really low rating on IMDb. It's only got a 5.9 out of 10. I'm gonna just rate it an 8 because I think these people are idiots. I loved it. Like I said earlier, I don't know anything about film, the technicalities of film, but I do know that Jodie Comer can carry any film ever made. Stick her in anything and she will make the movie. It's a scary film when you think about it's yeah, it's kind of like an apocalyptic film, but it's super realistic. This could happen, and most likely will happen in my lifetime. This kind of like environmental apocalypse sort of thing. So that aspect is terrifying, and I was gripped from start to finish. The beginning, it's not really a spoiler. but her waters break as the flood happens. Like, you're in the eye of the fucking storm. It's unreal. The thought of having to go through that is just crazy. But yeah, I'm just reading the reviews on IMDb. People didn't love it. I really liked it. Then I watched a few films at home. I watched The Lodge. I watched that with my mum on her birthday. I don't think either of us were massively taken by it. It was fine. Horror films are difficult to get right, I feel like. I love horror as a genre, but more from a comedy aspect. Like, I find most horror films do just make me laugh, and I love that. I love to laugh. The Lodge was nothing special. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't great. It had a couple of good twists. Yeah, that's on Netflix for anyone who's interested. I watched Bottoms, which was like an anticipated film for me. I wanted to watch that for a long time, and I'm not gonna lie, I watched it on a day where I had a headache, and I'm not sure I fully appreciated it. I'm gonna watch it again because I know it's a great film. I could tell it was a great film, but my head wasn't in it. There is some really fucking funny bits in it, like, that I'm excited to watch again. The premise of Bottoms is it's two kind of like loser teenage girls in high school who are also gay, and they decide to make a like fight club at school, like a self-defense fight club, but as a way to meet and kind of flirt with girls in their school. But it's really funny. And then another film I watched at home was How to Have Sex, which I really thought was great. I watched that on Mubi. Makes me laugh when I say Mubi, which is an app. And I don't know if this deal is still going, but I got 3 months for £1. So I'm trying to make my way through a lot of Mubi films. And most of the films on Mubi are kind of like art house, indie, a lot of foreign films. But yeah, How to Have Sex is great. It's about 3 teenage girls from England who go on like a booze up holiday in where is it? Malia. I think it's Malia. And so yeah, there's a lot of partying, but the main topic of the film is actually about consent and sex and things like that. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's great, especially if you have been a teenager, which I think most of people watching this have been a teenager. You'd be able to relate to a lot of things in it. I thought it was great, and I'm really glad that the main actress in it, Mia McKenna-Bruce, she won the BAFTA Rising Star Award, because this is kind of like her breakout role, and it was very well deserved. I loved it a lot. Right, after that I went to the cinema, and I had my heart taken from my chest and squeezed and thrown on the floor and stomped on because I went to watch The Iron Claw. Now, I went into The Iron Claw not sure if it was for me. I only went into it because I didn't have to pay for it because I've got the Odeon membership thing, and Zac Efron was in it and Jeremy Allen White from The Bear. So all I knew about this film was that those 2 guys were in it and it's about wrestling. That was all I knew. I did not expect to be sat sobbing, actively sobbing, shoulders, everything going. I didn't know that was going to happen to me. It was very unexpected. So the premise of The Iron Claw, for anyone who has not heard of or seen it, is, and listen guys, because I got a headache, my brain's not working, so I'm grabbing all of these synopses from IMDb. The true story of the inseparable Von Erich brothers who made history in the intensely competitive world of professional wrestling in the early 1980s. So it's a true story about this wrestling family. There's a dad at the head of the household, head of the family, and then all of his sons are into wrestling too, and they're professional wrestlers. It's a true story. It will tear your heart into 1,000 pieces. It's like you're watching it and you're like, I can't believe this is a true story. I cannot believe the turmoil, I can't believe that actual people have gone through this. It was ridiculous. I'd implore everyone to watch it because it was just outrageous that it made me, I hadn't sobbed that hard at a film in a long time, and I think that was my first cinema trip where I was really, I've never cried that much in public. That might not be true, but I hadn't in a long time. A couple of the other films, I had like streams of tears, like The Colour Purple, I was streaming, All of Us Strangers streaming, but I was hyperventilating. I thought someone was going to have to ask me to leave. And the fact that it got snubbed at the Oscars, I'm actually never going to fully recover from that, just so you know. There is a film that was nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars, which I would switch for The Iron Claw, 100%. And I'll say what it was in a minute. So, reeling from The Iron Claw, I watched a film at home with my parents. We watched a film called Suncoast, which again tore my heart into tiny little pieces. I believe this was maybe an Apple TV situ. No, it says Hulu, so maybe Disney Plus. And it's the story of a teenage girl who has a brother who is very ill. He's bedbound, he can't speak, he can't move, he can't do anything for himself, and her mum is very difficult because she's obviously going through the fact that her son is extremely unwell, and it's about how the daughter kind of navigates life whilst having a brother in that way. It stars Nico Parker. If you've watched The Last of Us, she plays Sarah in The Last of Us. I'm sure she has other acting credits too, but that's where I knew her from. It also stars the great Laura Linney and Woody Harrelson. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was heartwarming. It will make you cry potentially if you are still thinking about The Iron Claw like I was. Great. I am a massive fan of coming of age films. It's definitely my favourite genre, and it's definitely got that feel and that vibe to it. So yeah, liked it a lot. I rewatched the film Man on Fire. It's like a 20-year-old Denzel Washington film, also stars Dakota Fanning. Yeah, I had seen that before, but I watched it with my mum, just randomly. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as I did the first time I watched it, and I think that's because I could tell my mum wasn't enjoying it, so it was a bit awkward. So yeah, I really enjoyed it the first time I watched it though. I think mum was just killing my vibe. Next, the film that I personally think The Iron Claw should have been subbed out with, so like this one's nominated for an Oscar and I think The Iron Claw should have taken its place, is Maestro. It's on Netflix. It is the project of Bradley Cooper. He wrote it. Did he write it? Let me check. He wrote it, he directed it, he stars in it. And it's the true story of composer-conductor Leonard Bernstein and his wife, who's played by the wonderful Carey Mulligan. I don't know. I don't know if it's because I watched it at home and I wasn't as involved as I would have been in the cinema. I just felt bored. Just a little bored. I have no desire to watch it again. It didn't excite me. I thought he was good. I thought it had nice cinematography. It's a period piece, so it had nice set pieces and good costume and stuff. But I just think it maybe just wasn't for me. And that's okay. So yeah, there's no risk of that one winning the Best Picture at the Oscars this year, let's just say that. Right, then I had a bit of an intense week, or 7 days, because it spanned over 2 weeks, but was about 7 days worth. Actually less than that, 5 days worth, I think. 5 films in 5 days, maybe something like that. Intense cinema trip. So I really wanted to see the film American Fiction. It wasn't showing at any of my local cinemas, so I travelled all the way up to the Big Smoke, went all the way to London to watch this, and I wasn't disappointed. I really enjoyed it. There was a couple of bits that, like, I wasn't mad about the ending, but on the whole, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was like one of my most anticipated ones. Like, whenever the trailer showed for it, I was like, oh yeah, I'm super excited to watch that. So you can imagine I was gutted when I found out it wasn't showing at any cinemas locally to me. The premise of American Fiction is a novelist who's fed up with the establishment profiting from black entertainment uses a pen name to write a book that propels him into the heart of the hypocrisy and madness he claims to disdain. And there's also a lot of like family personal issues thrown in there as well. It stars Jeffrey Wright. It also has appearances from Tracy Ellis Ross, Adam Brody, Issa Rae and Sterling K. Brown. I loved This Is Us, so I'm a bit of a diehard Sterling K. Brown fan, and I wouldn't be mad if he won the Oscar for Best Supporting, but I'm pretty sure it's going to go to Robert Downey Jr. To be fair, there's a very strong category, actor in a supporting role, because I did love Ryan Gosling and Barbie. I thought he was iconic, but also Mark Ruffalo in Poor Things was very, very good. His accent was a little bit ropey, but on the whole, I thought he was great. And I haven't seen Killers of Flower Moon, so I can't comment on De Niro's De Niro in Killers of Flower Moon. But Sterling K. Brown was a highlight for me. I love Sterling K. Brown. The next film that I went to see was Wicked Little Letters, and I did the screen unseen, which is where you turn up to a film and you don't know what it's going to be. I did have a feeling it was going to be that though, because I'm on like a Reddit forum thingy, and everyone was kind of deciphering what they thought the film might be, because you get clues and stuff, so I kind of figured out that's what it was going to be. But my only issue was I was sleepy. It was a kind of a late showing for me, and I did nod off a couple of times, just to kind of like a brief but like enough that I wasn't fully in it. So I think I'm gonna go watch it again tomorrow and take my mum, so I can kind of really get a feel for it. On the whole, I did enjoy it. I think Olivia Colman can do no wrong. I also love Jessie Buckley. I think she's great. I am not sure if I feel like the humour was just reliant on swear words, and I hear swear words every day. I use swear words every day. They don't mean anything to me. So I wasn't totally sure, and also all of the gags are in the trailer, which I fucking hate. But on the whole, I do think it's a good film. I think it's a funny film. I just maybe expected a little bit more, but I did enjoy it. The premise of Wicked Little Letters is that it's a true story. Also, that I think the fact that it was a true story helped me enjoy it more. I feel like if it was fictional, I might have not been in it as much. But yeah, the plot is that loads of people in this little village in like the 1920s start getting these really rude letters with lots of swearing and stuff, like stuff you just wouldn't expect in the 1920s, and then they kind of have to find out who's writing the letters, things like that. I am losing my stamina. I'm running out of tea and it's going cold because I've got an insanely large mug and the tea's gone cold, and I'm wondering why I got out of bed at all. I went to see my first foreign film in February. I have only ever, someone's calling me, go away. I've only ever watched one foreign film before, and I watched it dubbed, which is blasphemy to a lot of people. My first foreign film I ever watched was called The Platform, which I think is a great film. I recommend it to anyone. Anyone. It might not be for everyone, but I'd recommend it to everyone. It's a great film. So that was the only one I'd ever seen. And like I said, I watched it dubbed. So I always knew that I wanted to try foreign films. But I have a very poor attention span, and I struggle to watch films at home a lot of the time because I just am not fully sure I'll be able to commit. So I knew I needed to see my first foreign film in the cinema. So I went to see The Zone of Interest, and had my mind kind of blown. I've never really seen a film like that before. It's really interesting because nothing really happens, but everything is happening. You just can't see it. You hear it. Like, the sound in this film is outrageously good. The plot of the film is based on a true story. It's set in World War II, and it's set outside the walls of Auschwitz in this house where this like high up commander person who works at Auschwitz lives with his family, and they have this perfect idyllic life. And then their garden wall is connected to Auschwitz. It's wild that it's even a true thing. It's a lot to get your head around. It's so harrowing. But the film itself, pretty subtle, doesn't say too much. You do a lot of like reading between the lines. Yeah, I had a lot of trouble with it, to be honest. I felt quite sick at a lot of it, like just because you know what's happening, but nothing, like it's not really being said. I don't know. It's one of those films that I feel like you probably just need to go watch for yourself, but it's not going to be for everyone. And it's not the sort of film you sit and watch and enjoy. You don't enjoy it. But I feel like it was a pretty good one for me to do as like my first foray into a foreign film. It's not massively heavy on dialogue, so I feel like it was good for that. But I would say, I'm not sure what genre they would call it. So IMDb has it down as period drama, history, war. I think it's a subtle horror film. It's just the score is horror for sure. And I know nothing about film, I know nothing about cinema, but yeah. Lighten the mood a bit, I went to see Madam Web. You might be watching this video because you care about films, or you might be watching this video because you are invested in videos that I make and you'll just kind of watch whatever I put out. So if you haven't heard the discourse about Madam Web, it's getting absolutely panned. It's getting trashed. Nobody likes it apart from my friend Amy. She is the only person that I have heard give a positive review of this film. I went into it thinking I don't know anything about film, so I probably will enjoy it because I don't know about this, I don't know about that. Like, I've thought, surely it's just people that know about films who are panning this. And I sat down and I watched it and I was like, oh no, this is bad. It's bad, but in a way that's funny. So it's a new Marvel film. It's kind of in the Spider-Man universe, but not really. Like, I'm not really a Marvel girly. But it was bad. It was really bad. I wish I could have watched it with someone so we could have laughed about it after. It just had really wooden, stiff acting. It was giving GCSE drama. The writing was bad. Loads of the sound was bad. Like the antagonist fella in it, my phone just ran out of storage, which is not a surprise when you've been speaking for over 30 minutes. Anyway, the antagonist guy in the film, all of his dialogue sounded like it was done in ADR, which means, you know, like if you were, say I'm filming this now, on my camera, in my room, whatever, and then it didn't sound right and I had to refilm it and kind of like dub myself, that is how every line he did sounded. It was so strange, but kind of a laugh to be honest, because it was so bad. Yeah, I'm glad that I didn't technically pay any money for that, I'm not gonna lie. And then that was a double bill for me, because I watched it on my own, and then I went and got some dinner, and then I met my dad, and then we watched Anatomy of a Fall. So another foreign film, not fully foreign, probably about, I don't know, maybe 70% not in English. So again, a kind of good way to like ease yourself into foreign film. I love a courtroom drama. I love courtroom anything. So that was kind of like why I wanted to watch it, and obviously Oscar nominated, etc. So Anatomy of a Fall is about a woman who is accused of killing her husband, and it's kind of about, did she, didn't she? There's courtroom, there's a very talented dog in that film, a very talented child actor. It was great, I really liked it. Long for a cinema, for your second film of the day. It was like 2.5 hours, which is quite long when you've already sat through Madam Web. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Right, and then I haven't been to the cinema since I went to see Anatomy of a Fall. I didn't go last week, or this week, yeah, it's Friday. I didn't go this week, but I watched a lot at home. I then went and watched 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 films at home. So going back to films that tear your heart out and stomp all over them, I watched Aftersun. That has been on my wanting to watch list for ever since it came out, and I just could never find it on any streaming services. So if you're the same and you have wanted to watch Aftersun for a really long time, it is on BBC iPlayer if you're in the UK, and it's well worth the watch if you want to be sad, which is often a feeling I want. I like to wallow in sadness. Always have, always will. I actually need to watch the film Triangle of Sadness. I don't know if it's about sadness, but I feel like it will appeal to me. That's what I need to watch. I didn't expect to have my heart broken by Paul Mescal so soon after All of Us Strangers, but there we are. I don't actually want to talk about it too much because I might cry. I watched Society of the Snow. She's in her foreign film era, guys. Society of the Snow is a true story. You can watch it on Netflix. It is based on a flight in the 1970s that crashed. It had a rugby team on it from Paraguay. I think it was Paraguay. And it's about how they survived living out in the Andes for 72 days, I think it was. That's another film that I think should come under the horror genre, because there was just moments where I felt like I was watching a horror film. And the plane crashing, I don't really enjoy flying. I flew recently for the first time in 20 something years, and it was okay. But on the whole, don't love the idea of flying. But I love plane crash films. Always have. Don't know why. But this one had the most hard to watch plane crash moments in it. The way it was shot, there was bones cracking. It was... My bone just literally cracked as I said that. It was something. There was another film made on this which came out about 20 years after it happened, which I think was probably 20 years too soon. Like, it shouldn't have been made that soon after real events happening. But anyway, that film starred Ethan Hawke, and I love Ethan Hawke. He's one of my favourite actors, so I will watch that one day, but I doubt it will be as good as Society of the Snow. But still, I feel a little bit icky about this film being made because there are scenes of cannibalism in this film, and obviously it's a true story, and the families of some of these victims are most likely still around today because this only happened in the 1970s. So I don't know, I feel like there should be a time limit cap on certain stories being told in film when there's still surviving family members, but I don't know, maybe that's just me. But I thought it was a great film and I really enjoyed it. I then watched a really kind of like niche indie art house kind of film. I watched this on Mubi. It was called The Childhood of a Leader, and it is a film that is set around the end of the First World War. Let me just double check that. Yeah, so it's a chronicle of the childhood of a post-World War I leader. It's a fictionalized film, but it's about this little boy's childhood being kind of like manipulative, and I don't know, it's very chilling, very harrowing, a very interesting score. I was very gripped the whole way through. I'd never heard of this film before until I saw it on Mubi, and it piqued my interest because I saw it was directed by Brady Corbett, who was an actor, and that was his directorial debut. But I first saw him in the film 13, and 13 is a film that pretty much shaped my whole like teenage years. I still remember the day I watched that film for the first time. And he was also in what's it called, the puppet thing, Busted, did the Thunderbirds. He was in the Thunderbirds film, and he's done a couple of other films here and there, but that was his directorial debut, and I felt like it was a really brave and interesting directorial debut, especially because he's American, but the film is set in France. So there's a fair bit of French in it. Like, I don't know, I just was very intrigued by that being his first film. I will happily go watch anything else he's made, to be fair, because I was just quite enamored with it the whole time. I watched a film called The Squid and the Whale. This was a really short film. I think it was 1 hour and 16 minutes, which was great because I was just looking for a film to squeeze in a certain time, so it was perfect for that. It's directed by Noah Baumbach. How do you say his name? Baumbach. I'm not sure how you say this guy's name, but it's directed by the same person who directed Marriage Story, and it's kind of a similar story. It follows two kids, like a teenager and like a preteen, whose parents are divorcing, and obviously Marriage Story is about like divorce and things like that, so it's very similar. It's clearly like biographical to some extent, and the film is actually quite an old film. It's 19 years old. I've never heard of it. It stars Jesse Eisenberg. He plays a teenage boy, and his parents are played by Laura Linney and Jeff Daniels. I really liked it. I thought it was subtle. I really enjoyed the length. I thought, what a great length of film that is. Probably didn't enjoy it as much as I enjoyed Marriage Story. Also probably it had some interesting bits in it. Could have done without those two characters. So there's two characters who have a little snog, and I could have done without that because they were in a film that I watched as a child playing father and daughter. I didn't need to see them having a snog in this film. It was inappropriate. Didn't like that. But yeah, just, I'll say it before I'll say it again. It was 1 hour and 16 minutes, guys. Loved that. Then my dad was away for a couple of nights, so me and my mum like watched some films. So we watched Are You There God? It's Me, Margaret. That's based on a Judy Blume book. It's a coming of age film. It's about a preteen girl navigating life through periods and friendships and family. It was wholesome, it was good vibes. It had Rachel McAdams in it, being iconic as always. We love to see it. I enjoyed it. I think mum did as well. Then I watched a film that I was actually recommended by someone on Instagram. I had never heard of this film before, but it had like a trope which I love in films, which is like accidental parent, which is kind of like a young person being taken under the wing of someone who's like being parentally. So this film is called Above the Clouds, and it's about a girl who on her 18th birthday finds out that her dad is not her real dad, and her dad lives at the other side of the country, and she wants to go and meet him, but she has a car but only has a provisional driving license, so she needs an appropriate adult, not an appropriate adult, but she needs someone with a driving license to sit in the car with her while she drives. And the man that she chooses to do that with is a homeless man who rocks up at the gallery that she works in. So she goes on a road trip film. I also love road trip films, to be fair, with this homeless man. And it's really wholesome. It's really warm. I feel like the acting took a while to kind of... It was clearly quite a low budget film. I felt like the acting took a little bit of a while to warm up, but really nice, really sweet, wholesome. I enjoyed. 2 films left, guys. We can do it. We're almost there. I watched Past Lives, which I really enjoyed, and I thought I would. Again, it's kind of a foreign film. Not really, but a lot of it is in Korean. I had a couple of people like in my real life recommend it, whose opinions I really trust, so I went for it, and yeah, it was great. Broke my heart. There's a quote in it that I think about a lot. So the premise of the film is that my phone keeps running out of storage, and then my laptop ran out of storage, and I've literally just got 2 films left to talk about. Give me strength. So the premise of Past Lives is 2 deeply connected childhood friends arrested apart. That's an interesting word. Arrested apart. Who's at the door? Someone's knocking at the door. 2 deeply connected childhood friends arrested apart after Nora's family immigrates from South Korea. 20 years later, they are reunited for one fateful week as they confront notions of love and destiny. So yeah, it's 2 childhood friends. One of them immigrates. As adults, they reconnect. There's kind of not too much I can say without giving away spoilers, and sometimes it's hard to know what is it and isn't a spoiler, but it's I don't know, man. It's a hard film to sum up. I really liked it. I can see why people like it. There is a quote in it that I'm actually getting emotional thinking about, because it was just... So it's the quote is, "You dream in a language I can't understand. It's like there's this whole place inside you I can't go." And I just think about that all the time. Yeah, I don't know. It was super moving. It's not gonna get the Best Picture Oscar. Oppenheimer definitely is, but I would not be mad if it got the Best Picture Oscar, though I do still think Iron Claw should somehow get it, even though he didn't get nominated. I can see why people loved it. It was super touching. It was good vibes. Well, it wasn't good vibes, it was stamp on my heart vibes, but you know, you get the drill by now. And the last film that I watched in February, we are ending on a note of less prestige. It's not Oscar worthy by any means. It's a film called Upgraded. It's like Amazon Prime's rom-com of the month, I guess. Kind of like a modern Cinderella almost. It is about a woman who works. It's about a woman whose boss is terrible, and then there's these two terrible girls who like are above her at work, and she manages to get to go on a business trip to London for work, and she gets upgraded to like business class or first class, and then she meets a guy. He thinks she's like really well to do because she's in business class. Chaos ensues, romance happens. It was exactly what I expected it to be. It was exactly what I needed to watch at the time. Good, harmless fun. It's not winning any Oscars, but, you know, I don't want rom-coms to die. I love a rom-com, and they're not making them as much anymore. I feel like there might be a slight resurgence happening, though, and that would be down to anything but you, I would imagine. But it starred Camila Mendes, who I really rate. I never watched Riverdale, but I loved Do Revenge, and she was in Do Revenge. So I really like her. I like watching her. I think she's a good actress. She's got good screen presence. And yeah, that film, Upgraded, it's nothing to write home about, but it did what it said on the tin. And what more could you want in a film? Those are all the films I've watched so far in 2024. If you are still here, give yourself a pat on the back, because I wish I wasn't here. I am tired. If I do this again, if I make this a monthly thing, it will not be this long, because I have just spoken about 32 films, and I won't be watching 32 films in a month, I would imagine. I don't think I'll watch that many this month because Celebrity Big Brother's coming back, so that will be taking up a large proportion of my time. However, I will endeavour to go to the cinema, because obviously I have got to make my £15 a month worth it. Also going to try and watch some of the films on Mubi, because I will be cancelling that subscription. I won't be paying for another subscription. There's just too many to pay for. But yeah, talk to me about films in the comments. Tell me if you have watched any of the films I have watched. Tell me if you've got a recommendation for me. I will leave my letterboxd in the description. I'm still kind of coming to getting to grips with letterboxd, because I've been an IMDb girly for over a decade. But yeah, those are my feelings on films for this month. Do join me next month for more feelings on films, in theory, if I do that. Thank you for watching. Thanks for sticking with me. Sorry I can't be more insightful in my film reviews. Maybe I'll get better at that. Maybe I will go to film school. That's not gonna happen, but you never know. Right, see you later. Cheers for watching. I don't know about you, but I think I'm gonna snuggle on up and watch a little film. Treat myself. It's not like I've watched 30 this year already. All right, see you later.